Hey guys, Kevin here with etrailer, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install the Solera manual to powered replacement heads for your Solera awnings here on our 2017 Forest River Work and Play Toy Hauler Travel Trailer. So if you're like me and you're tired of having to manually crank out your awning every single time or push it back in using the crank, a lot of the times when you're doing that you got to kind of hold the pole a weird way just to kind of keep it level with the head, then the replacement manual to powered drive head is going to be the thing for you. This is going to easily allow you to extend or retract your awning in just a matter of seconds. One of the features that I like to point out is say you have a dead battery and you switched over to your powered drive head and you're worried that, oh, I'm not going to be able to retract or extend my awning. All you have to do is pop off the rubber grommet like we've already done right here, which can easily just be done by hand. And inside there's a little nut that you can just put your socket wrench on and easily crank out or retract in your awning. So your new drive heads are going to come in two different colors, either black or white, depending on what aesthetics you want. Ours today is black just because our trailer already had some black awning arms on it. These drive heads are going to work with either short, flat, or pitched Solera awning arms, so you know which ones are going to actually work with here. As far as installation goes, it is one simple screw to mount your new drive head into your arms, and then all it is splicing 4 wires on your switch up to the power and up to our motor. So overall, installation is super simple. The only thing you might need some extra help with is just moving your awning roller off and on depending on the length of it. So your kit is going to include your drive head, your idler head. It's going to have a wire that's going to have a red and a white wire coming out of it, and it's going to go up to a 2-pole connector that's going to connect to your drive head. That's going to be coming down and connecting up to your switch, which is also going to come with a fuse block, which you can see right in here. It is not going to come with any extra wiring because Solera does not know exactly how your setup's going to go and how much wiring you're going to need. So you will have to provide that for yourself, as well as any butt connectors or ring terminals that you might need to make your connections to your power. So to begin our conversion over to powered heads on our awning, we're going to have to first remove our roller and then our heads. And to do that, I'm just going to put our awning out about 6 inches just to start, just so I have a little bit more room to work with as we're trying to take these off. To remove the roller from our heads, we're going to have to remove our pin right here. Typically, you'll see a cotter pin in here that's just bent around. Our neighbor apparently has already done some maintenance on theirs, and they have a bolt in here, so we're going to take that off. I've already gone ahead and did the same thing on the other side. And I have somebody over there to help me out because this is just such a long awning. It's going to be hard to pull this off without dropping one side. So go ahead and remove this bolt now. It's kind of rusted in place on here, so you have to beat on it just a bit. So one thing you're going to want to do before actually pulling your roller off is secure your arms here. I'm just using some zip ties. I already got some over on the other side. And that's just going to prevent this from falling down on you once all the tension's removed from the roller. So with an extra set of hands, we're going to go ahead and pop our roller off of our head right now. Just pull that to the side. You can pull it off. And we can start sliding it. You got it? You can push it. Start sliding it down. Yep. I got it. Removing your manual heads is going to be super easy. All it is just one screw. Just want to be careful I don't strip the head out just because it is such a big Phillips head there. Pull that off, and then we can just do the same thing to our idler head. So the power for our drive head is actually going to be hooked up to this 2-pole wire and we're gonna be tracing our wire down the front of our arm right here. There is a little bit of a opening all the way down, and then we're gonna drill into the side of our camper. So to make things a little bit easier when I'm putting the drive head on, I'm just gonna run my wire through right now. For the most part, this whole thing is gonna be empty, but when you get to the actual mechanics of it, we need to make sure that we're staying on the outside closer to the wall here. That way we're not having our wire catch on anything. So like I said, it's just a simple 2-pole connection. I'm gonna put these together. And if you want to go the extra mile, get yourself some dielectric grease, and you can just coat your pins there. Make sure that you don't have any water getting in there and corroding it. And then we're gonna drop this in place, and we'll hook it up just like we removed our previous head with that same screw. And now we can go ahead and do the same thing with our idler head, but since it's just an idler, it's not gonna have that power cord running through it. So our neighbor's wanting his switch mounted inside of his compartment right here. So we're gonna go ahead. I'm actually gonna cut the zip ties that I have holding this in place. I'm gonna let it pop out so that I get a little bit more room to cut a hole in here so we can then trace our wiring inside of our compartment. So now we can go ahead and push our wiring through. So to prevent our wiring from getting caught up and pinched on our brace right here, I'm gonna go ahead and take a zip tie. I'm gonna wrap it right around here. And we're gonna keep our wire snug up to this edge. And then we can start running it down the length of our arm. We're gonna also put a zip tie here. Typically, if you have OEM, they kind of hide all this stuff so you don't really have to see that. But when you're doing a conversion, you're unfortunately just not able to get it as tight as the manufacturer will. So we'll go ahead and also do the same thing we did on the arm over here. Now that we have our power ran into our compartment, I'm gonna go ahead and set up where I want my switch. I'm gonna put it just right here. I'm gonna go ahead and mark out around it because we're gonna have to cut a hole for our switch to fit inside of. Because the inside right here is gonna sit up inside that hole, and then we'll connect to our wiring harness. Because our walls are so thick, I'm actually gonna have to notch this out just a bit more at the bottom for our wires to actually come out, just because I'm not gonna be able to actually hook these two together as is in our current setup. So I'm gonna do a little bit more of a notch job here with my multi-tool, and we'll get these connected. All right, I've got our wiring harness hooked up to our switch. I'm just gonna push that through. And we can see now that we have enough room for our wires inside. So I'm gonna take 2 self-tapping screws and I'm gonna put those to hold our switch in place on the side of our RV. All right, so our plug is gonna be facing with our wires going up. I've stuck some butyl tape on the back of our switch here just to prevent any water from getting through. We're gonna push that onto our wiring harness. And then I can push that back up into place. And we're gonna shoot 2 screws through. I have some black-headed ones that'll match real nice. And with that butyl tape, it's gonna shoot up through the threads of the screw and just really help protect it from any water damage. As you can see, it's coming up out of it. So I'm gonna cut our wire down a little bit. We don't need this much. So I'm gonna cut it back right here. take my utility knife and I will strip back the casing. Then we can take our strippers and cut back the casing on our individual wires. And twist those up. We're going to put a butt connector on because we're going to be attaching this to our switch. So for our motor wires, we're going to put our white to the white on our switch, and then the blue on our switch is going to go to our red on our motor. The red wire on our switch is going to run to our power source, and then our black is going to run to our ground. Because I'm going to have to route my wires down under our RV here over to our battery, I'm going to have to ensure that I can make it past our frame, because I don't want to have to try and run wires under it and take any chance of those wires being damaged. So I know from measuring that from the edge of our RV past our beam right here for our frame, it's going to be about 15 inches. So from here back, I'm going to measure 15 inches. That way, when I drill down through the floor, I know I'm going to clear that frame and I'm not going to have to worry while running my wires. So now we just need some extra wire to run over to our battery. And to do that, I'm going to be using our brown wire right here for my power. And I've got some white wire I'm going to use for our ground. Go ahead and actually I'm going to clip this back just a little bit and give you a little bit more than you really need there. Connect up to our power, and we will crimp that down. And like I said, for our white wire, put a butt connector on that and crimp it down. And connect it to our black wire. Then we can start running our wires down through our hole. All right, now that we're under the trailer, after routing our cords down through our compartment, I'm going to cut off the ground wire that we have going, and I'm going to put a ring terminal on it now, and then we're going to ground it straight to our frame. Alright, now with that grounded to our frame, we can go ahead and start routing our power wire over. So I have a little fuse right here. This is our main power in from the battery. Over here is going to lead over to the battery disconnect switch. So I'm just going to get our wire kind of around our power wire coming out from that. And we'll cut it right about here and throw on another ring terminal and just connect it to this fuse. That way it'll only be powered whenever the battery disconnect switch is in the on position. That way our awning's not sitting there just draining the battery. All right, with the power off so that there's no chance of getting a shock here, I'm going to go ahead and take off our power output from this fuse. And we can crimp on our ring terminal. That back in place, put our nut back on. So now I'm just going to come back up in here and use some zip ties to kind of keep our wires nice and tight. So now with all of our connections made, we can go ahead and test our drive head, make sure that it's functioning properly. And as you can see, the little pin right up top there that sticks out and spins is spinning right around, so we know that our head is properly functioning. So the next step is going to be putting our roller back on. So now we're going to be replacing our fabric on our roller. I have it off, and we are going to unroll our roller, get all the fabric laid out so that we can get to a point where we can pull it out of the tab that the awning slides into on our roller. So we'll just push this along. So our fabric's actually held in place by two different pieces. We have one strip right here and then one strip right here. We're gonna need to remove our screw so that we can pull this down out through our cap. We're gonna wanna hang on to that because we're gonna put this right back in place. After taking out that screw and our track, we're gonna go ahead and just take our cap off as well. And then we can just pop it right off. So if you have an extra set of hands, it'd be real nice to just have them down at the other end. That way they can hold it up so you're not scraping your roller as you're trying to pull the fabric off. Right now I just have some 2x4s laying under it. So we'll just do that and we'll just pull our fabric straight out. So I have our fabric laid out face down so that we can roll it up into our roller here. I'm going to take our little rod right here and we're going to place it into our track. And I got an extra set of hands with me because we're going to have to slowly guide this through. I don't want it angled and then having the edge of the roller end up scratching the fabric. So definitely super helpful if you got an extra set of hands. All right, now that we got our awning all the way through, we're gonna make it even on both sides. Pretty good indicator is just from our old awning where that was sitting, and you can see the kind of wear marks. So I'll slide the edge of our awning down to that and then double check with the other side and make any necessary adjustments. So now we're going to go ahead and put our caps back on. All right, so you can see the little rod that runs through our fabric is sitting right here, and that's where our original hole was. And our track, I'm going to go ahead and shoot that self-tapper right back in that spot to hold our fabric in place and keep it from sliding back and forth. And now we can go ahead and put our roller back up on our awning arms. As we're rolling this up, we want to make sure that we're keeping our edges tight. We don't want this rolling up crooked on here. We'll leave about a foot of space. That way we can easily get this up onto the extrusion rail. So now we're going to go ahead and put our fabric bead right through our extrusion rail. If you don't already have the ends of it kind of pulled down, you can just take some needle nose pliers. That kind of helps get you started when you're going through here and prevents you from really tearing up your fabric as you're pushing it through. Let's go ahead and start working our way through. Definitely want to be careful, especially when you get to the top of the awning arms. These are kind of sharp. You don't want to have your fabric resting on that and ended up getting scratched. All right, so we're going to go ahead and slide our awning all the way down and get it onto our head of our pin here. And actually, because we tested this out, I am going to need to adjust our pin here because it's just a little bit off. All right, now we can go ahead and pop our head into place. And we're going to take a cotter pin and just push that through to make sure that we're connected. And we will pinch those down. For the time being, I'm going to go ahead and also take some pliers and pull them all the way back. So now I'm going to go ahead and run the awning in and out a few times, kind of get rid of the wrinkles that you're seeing here, and then also kind of build up the tension. As this goes, it's going to kind of slide back and forth in the extrusion rail, and that's going to help kind of get it settled where it needs to be. All right, so like I said, we're going to come back up here and just take our pliers and push our cotter pin back down. Earlier, this was the part where we were taking out a bolt, but luckily we had a few extra cotter pins laying around, so go ahead and help our neighbor out. Get them exactly what should be in here. And then we're going to go ahead and take our screws and put them through our extrusion rail to keep our awning from sliding back and forth. All right, so right here you can see the previous hole for our extrusion rail screw. I'm going to go ahead and just use that again. But just like any other time, or if it was a new install, you want to kind of just tap into it. You don't want to just go flying and take a chance at hopping out of that and digging into your fabric. So now with that in place, our awning's not going to slide back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and put our screw in on the other side as well. Well, I think that about covers it for today's installation of the Solera manual to powered replacement heads for your Solera awnings here on our 2017 Forest River Work and Play Toy Hauler Travel Trailer. My name's Kevin. Thanks for watching.